It looks like we are live. Hey, how's it going? It's Lenny B, and we are doing another live session here on YouTube. And I know it's going to take a little time for people to kind of join us here. So I'll maybe recap a little bit, and we'll talk about what's happening. Let me make sure I'm pushing the right buttons. I have with me a friend and a client, Linton Tulloch, and you are in where? Tell us where in the world you are.
I'm in London, UK, London, England, South London to be precise.
Right, and it was. Let me just, while people are kind of joining and we're starting here, I'm going to just give a little bit of background about what we're doing and what I want to accomplish on these lives. I am, if you've never ever seen any one of my videos from my channel before, I am an audio engineer, and I specialize in working with voiceover talent who is doing acting, maybe narrating their own books, or they've got a YouTube channel, or they're doing podcasts, or they're doing commercial voiceover work, or whatever it may be. Whatever it may be, if you are recording or capturing your voice on a microphone and being artistic and doing your thing, I can help you make a better connection. And I have several clients, and one of them is Linton or Lenny. I know you go, not to be confused with Lenny. I'm Lenny B. This is Lenny, short for, that's your nickname, right? Linton, what do you prefer, actually?
Actually, I prefer Lenny. It's Lenny with an I, basically.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'll tell you what it is, because my dad's called Linton as well, so it separates the two of us. I was called Lenny since a child, and it's never left me, so Lenny's better.
I'm the same way. My dad's Leonard, and I'm Leonard, but I go with Lenny just to kind of to separate them a little bit.
There you go.
So the cool thing is, you and I actually met face to face. I met you when I was in London, which was totally awesome. I want to talk a little bit about that. But what I want to accomplish today, as people, hi, Ace Jackson is here. Hello, guys. Amazing conversation as always. If you feel like you are joining and you've got some questions, the whole purpose of this is I realized that I've got this access to this pool of professional voiceover artists around the world at different levels. Some are working on major motion pictures. Some are just starting, and I wanted to share some of the experiences and the expertise in their own words to other voiceover artists, no matter where you are on your journey or in your career path. So I thought it was a no-brainer. I wanted to get Lenny on and to talk about what you do and your experience working with me, and if I've helped you and where you're going. So So first of all, I want to say, please ask questions if you're joining this while it's live here, and obviously this is also going to be up and available on my YouTube channel afterwards. But if you're watching live, so this is just giving you access to a real life pro voiceover artist as we discuss audio quality and earning potential and leveling up and clients and sales and acoustic treatment and just everything, all the tools that you need. So why don't we start? Tell everyone a little bit about you, what you do today, and where you are in the voiceover journey.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. Much appreciated. What do I do? Essentially, is that whenever somebody says that, it's a little bit weird to answer that one, is it?
Listen, Lenny. I want you to don't be afraid to boast. Tell us. I want to. You're here for a reason, because you're an incredible artist, and I want you to share that with us. Tell us about you.
Well, I am a professional voice artist. I've been doing this now full time since 2023 is when I became full time. Prior to that, I started just before the pandemic kicked in. I started and found my way up from there. I can go back to how I first came into voiceover, if you like.
Sure.
Years ago. I mean, it's something I've always been interested in. Since a child, I was always interested in music. I sing and I perform, so I'm used to being around microphones and that. So that side of it for me is fairly familiar. But since the 90s, I think it was when I first started thinking about doing voiceover. But back then I had no idea how to get into it.
Right.
and I only knew one person that said that he was a voice artist. And when you don't really know what a voice artist does or how they're supposed to sound, I sort of looked at this guy and I was like, "You don't sound like a voice artist to me. Where's your big booming voice?"
Right.
Kind of thing. Because you have the stereotypes.
Sure.
Um, so I sort of left it at that. Um, from there, if I wind it on a couple years now, I remember I came to I came to voiceover from the teaching world, and I remember teaching once. We was doing an event at a school with lots of other schools, and we was doing something like indoor athletics or something like that. And
Okay.
we had a big PA system set up and microphone, music, and everything. And there was a lull in the action.
Mm.
And my boss at the time just shoved the mic in my hand and just said, "Lenny, just say something."
Right.
So I started commentating and telling, keeping the crowd energy going.
Right.
By the end of it, I had about 3 or 4 different teachers coming over asking, "Well, I've got my sports day coming up. Could you do that
Right.
at my one
Right.
as well?" So I'm like, "Okay, so I can do a little bit more than sing then." Wind that on a couple of years now. I had
Wait, wait, time out. I want to say some things. That's great. Please don't forget where you're going next.
Yep.
The reason why I'm going to pause you here is because I want to highlight, and I've been doing this. I want to highlight some. I want to highlight some points that I think are really important that I want people to make note of. Call it um, enlightenment or things like I got to remember that this is it's a little gem of you know what I mean, just something you always learn.
Yeah.
People in the music world, singers, people who play an instrument or something, you're artists, and especially if you are a singer, you have a relationship with a microphone and also a relationship with telling stories, communicating with an audience. I think if you are in that music world, it's very, very similar to being a voice. You're a storyteller. You're an entertainer. So I think that's important to understand that there's a really strong connection there. Please continue, but I think that is important to make a note of because there's a little bit of I can never think of the word experience.
There's a bit of synergy. There's a bit of
Yeah.
synergy going on there.
Yes.
I'd agree with you on that because when you're performing, you're not always, as a singer, you're not always going to be singing. There's going to be times in between sets where you're going to be talking, and you have to,
Right.
whether you're singing a song or whether you're talking, you have to make a connection with the people that you're performing for. And it's
Absolutely.
exactly the same thing in voiceover. You have to make that connection. Um, I can think of, I'm going off on tangents here, but if I think of an artist off the top of my head who's really good at making connections, it will be someone like a Jill Scott
Oh yeah.
who can make a stadium feel like a telephone booth
Right.
because
Right.
she's very intimate, just talking to people and she
Mm-hmm.
draws you in.
Yep.
There are some people like that. And that's what you have to do as a voice artist, essentially. Um, but going back to the story, about 10 years ago, I had to have heart surgery, emergency heart surgery, which sort of
Really?
like, yeah, I had 2 of them, and completely out of the blue, completely turns your world upside down. Anyone that's been through that understands that. Completely turned my world upside down, and for about 2 years, I was trying to get my act together,
Wow.
and my girlfriend at the time, who was doing, she was doing a music degree at the time, and she was the first person that said to me, "I know you can sing, but you really should do voice acting. I think that's something that you could handle." And I thought about it, and then I remember seeing her do an exercise where she had a film and she had to add all the sound effects to it, and she had to add a score to it as well. And I was watching her doing all of these things, and I thought that looks really interesting.
Mm.
I wonder if I could do that. So once again, I knew absolutely nothing, so I just started reading anything that I could and recording it to myself. Um, seeing how it sounded, not really, aimlessly going. I had no idea that there was actual help out there.
Right.
Just before the pandemic now, what I had been doing during that time, I was steadily buying equipment to have a studio inside of my home. That's one of the things that I've always wanted anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I was setting up a studio to play music because my girlfriend was moving in at the time, so it was all set up to do music.
Right.
Um, I had microphone, I had interface, I had speakers. I've got a piano over there in the corner. Everything was there, and then as people grow up, you separate, kind of thing.
Right.
So we've gone our separate ways, and I'm left with studio equipment and a piano. So I'm thinking, we're in the pandemic now. I'm now thinking, I'm going to learn one of these things because I
Yeah.
can't sit here and watch Netflix all day.
Right. Yeah.
And just prior to that, I'd actually joined Mandy.com. I'd just taken the plunge and I joined a pay to play.
Okay. I haven't heard of that particular one before. Maybe I've heard of it, but it's a platform where you pay to play to get voiceover work.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Similar to like Voices and Voices 123, similar
Gotcha.
sort of thing. So I had actually paid a subscription to do that because once again, no one had told me
Right.
anything different. So essentially, during the pandemic, I read, went on YouTube, consumed everything that I could about voiceover,
Mm-hmm.
from people like Mike Delgado, um, Gabriel Nisco, who else? Podcasting, people like that. If it was voiceover, I was going to learn it, and I found my way. I found my way on the actual platform. One thing about voiceover, you better get used to being rejected because you're going to get a lot of rejections.
It's true.
So, yeah. So I auditioned until finally I managed to get myself a job.
Okay. Wait,
Um,
now, I just want to reset here. We've got more and more people joining the live. If you're just joining us, I'm Lenny B. I am an audio engineer, and I'm sharing some of the stories of my clients who I help, help their, with the audio situation, help them sound better on the mic. And Lenny here is one of my clients. We've known each other for quite a long time, and I want him to be part of this so he could share some of his experiences. So we're kind of going through, and if you have questions, I see some of the questions are coming in. Ace Jackson says, I'm also a client of Lenny's. Thank you so much for watching. But if you have a question for either myself or Lenny, please feel free to leave them. So, but I also want to make sure you understand that, you are a professional. Lenny, you are a professional voiceover artist, and we're going to share your expertise and experience here. That's what really this is all about, and we're getting to know you a little bit better. So you managed to get your first, and let me recap one thing again, too, because I think this is big. You didn't know anything about, you were kind of coming from the music world, didn't know anything about voiceover, and really found your way online, which is awesome, how we can do research and kind of figure it out for ourselves. So you managed to get your first gig, a paid gig, and, that must have made you feel awesome. And you're like, okay, I can do this. It's, what did that mean for you, for your being rejected so much? What did that first gig mean to you?
it was sort of surreal at the time, thinking back. It was confirmation that I can actually do this. I still had a lot to learn, but I can actually do this.
Right.
So getting that first job was a huge milestone for me. Then I remember joining a competition for a website, Voice Distillery, I think it was. Joined a competition, and I finished runner-up in that one.
Nice.
Um,
These are all big confidence boosts. Let me ask you
Great for your
this.
confidence.
Yeah, let me ask you this. This is great, and I really want to point some of these things out. A lot of people say, I need to practice, or, it takes some confidence, especially after being rejected, and that happens with everything, right? Everybody goes through that. Everybody has that rejection. what was it that helped push you to like enter this contest? What, you know what I mean? Because sometimes we're really good at telling ourselves we're not good enough.
I can't remember where I saw the contest advertised. I can't remember whether it was on LinkedIn or if it was on Instagram, but as one of them social media posts, I'm almost certain I saw
Okay.
the advert for it. Um, but the good thing about finishing runner up, I mean, yes, it would have been nice to have won the Neumann the first prize,
That
but
was awesome.
the good thing about winning it is that, sorry, coming runner up, I got access to a site called Voiceover Kickstart, which is a
Okay.
training platform.
Okay.
So I managed to now meet other voiceovers who are in a similar position to myself,
Gotcha.
and working with Guy Michaels, who runs it as well, and getting some training and some insight on the actual industry, how it actually runs.
So the
Um,
so the
I
community
missed
really kind
something.
of helped, like getting connection with other people in the business.
The community was the biggest thing. That was the biggest change in what I'd done. If I wind it back a bit, I had previously done one of those courses that you find at college, come to college for like 3 months and we'll give you a demo at
Right.
the end of it. So I'd done something like that and came out after 3 months and I still didn't really know anything.
Gotcha.
But joining the voiceover kickstart really helped. Then I found out about the voiceover network. That really helped. Then I found out about Gravy for the Brain. And along the way, I managed to find friends and people that were either at my level, just behind me, or in front of me, and form accountability groups with those people.
Interesting.
And my friends on the accountability groups have taught me more than anything else in this business,
Interesting.
because I've got real live experiences and advice from people that have tried it, failed, or tried it and it's worked.
Yeah.
So,
Which is
and I wouldn't have come into contact with them if I had not been on those 3 sites. There's lots of sites about, but if I hadn't have been on those 3 sites, I wouldn't have met those people.
which is really what you're doing right now. You're kind of paying it forward even further. Can you share some of the really pivotal things that, like, when you learned or you heard some of this intellectual, suggestions or whatever from these people? Can you share some of those pivotal moments, maybe that from those conversations? Just general things.
Biggest thing that I've learned is to treat this like a business. This is a business. Yes, we are creative people and we all want to take a microphone up and we all want to read a script, act, sing, whatever it is. That side of it is second nature to us.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. The harder side of it is the business side and the
Hmm.
technical side. Nowadays, now that everybody's got their home studio, most voiceovers have their own home studio.
Yes.
You do have to become competent at being able to record yourself, being able to edit yourself, and do what's the word I'm looking for? Try and keep your standards up in terms of your sound and your performance.
Yep.
Now, it helped at the start when I was recording. If I'd be recording a demo and I've got one of my accountability groups, I could always run a demo past somebody in the group and they'd tell me whether it was good or bad or what was going wrong,
Right.
which was a big help as well. The other thing that I learnt is the big part that nobody told me about is you have to market for yourself. There's Nobody's going to come up to you and say, "Hey, I'm Coca-Cola.
Right.
Here's a job." Nobody's going to do that.
Right. Right.
So you do have to market yourself. So I've
So
learned.
would you say? I'm sorry to interrupt you. So would you say, some of the details when you say treat it like a business? That's one of the things. Like, you got to market yourself. You have to make sure you're always learning. You have to run things past data or research. Like, it's really what you did. Like, in a business, will do that too. Before they release a product, they'll do research and test things and making sure. So So those are the specifics when you say treat it like a business. That's what you're talking about.
That includes making sure that you have a schedule for yourself.
Yes.
If you're doing this for the first time, you've got to make sure that you've got hours that you clock in and clock out. For me, that means that my day starts at 5:30 every morning,
Mm-hmm.
so I can be ready by 8, 9 o'clock, and I'm all warmed up and I'm ready to go.
Yes.
Um, there's no point um, getting up whatever time you feel like doing it because you're the business owner. You'll
Right.
it if you handle your business like that, no one's going to want to work
Right.
with you. So
Right.
you've got to be professional about it.
Yep.
You're also going to have to make sure that you train to do this as well. This was another big milestone that
Right.
once again came through my accountability groups. I got put in contact with a couple of voiceover coaches who taught me, who showed me some of the things that some of the mistakes I was making, pointed out some of my misconceptions that I had, and showed me ways that I could um, showed me ways that I could improve on my skill set. Showed me my weaknesses and my strengths, and how I can uh, eh, what's the word I'm looking for? How I can mitigate my weaknesses is that word I'm looking for.
Okay.
Um, because for me myself, when I was somebody at school, I didn't found I was never the greatest reader when I was at school.
Okay.
Um, so I could read, that's not a problem. But until you do voiceover,
It's a
give me a
different type of
newspaper.
reading.
That's it. It's a different. Suddenly, you're going to have to read it out loud, sound legible to everybody else, clear voice, and make it sound interesting at the same time.
Uh,
And if you're
um,
not used to do that, if you're
yes.
not used to doing that, it's a lot going on in your mind at the same time to sort that out.
A lot. It's multitasking. I'll add one more facet to that. You have to understand the message, like really digest, like, okay, what is this really saying? And then that's where the emotion comes from. It's like you could read the words cold and you could read it and you could have good diction and over accentuate every syllable and all that stuff. But if you don't connect your heart with what you're saying, doesn't there's no emotion. And that's what drives people to connect with the story. So yeah, and that's a
And
lot, right? You're looking at your recording level, you're doing all those things at the same time. So yeah, that's a muscle that you have to exercise, I think.
and that's where it ties. That's where you find the ties with singing.
Yes, exactly.
If
Absolutely,
you give me a
absolutely.
song to sing,
Yep.
I can sing it. We've all been to a karaoke and heard
Right.
someone read something off the screen.
Right.
But then when you see a performer that's actually written a song or actually digested a song and truly
Absolutely.
understands what it is and then delivers it, and you know when someone's delivered it from the heart, you know it immediately, someone's really delivered it from the heart. And it's exactly the same thing with voiceover. It's exactly the same thing. You might not get there, but that's what you always strive to get to.
Yes.
Um,
These
you want
are
to get to that.
I'm sorry. That's very valuable information, and that is the point of this broadcast. If you're just joining us, I see there's quite a few people have come in and out, and by all means, that's what this is about. I want it to be a community thing. Lenny Tulloch is with us. He is a professional voiceover artist and sharing some of his experiences and expertise and some of his background. T- uh, Lenny, tell us now how far you've come. You're a professional voiceover artist, but you're doing this full time now. And tell us where you are now and where you want to go, like what your dream is.
Where I'm at now, um, I do obviously I do commercial work, I do corporate work, um, e-learning I do as well. Although the current market e-learning's not as plentiful as it was before, but
Okay.
it's still there.
Hmm.
Um, so generally, it's going to be generally it's commercial and corporate work that I tend to do most of all.
Okay.
What I excuse me. I have done a video game. I have done some animation as well. I want to do some more video games, and ultimately, if my ultimate job working in voiceover would be to do the voice of the Silver Surfer in a Marvel movie. If I had done that, I would be like, I've made it. I think that's
You and I have had this conversation. I think that's where your core passion is. You love that. So that would be maybe your specialty. So yeah, you can do all different types, but that's kind of the dream gig. And have you thought about plans like how to get there? You've come such a long way, and we've known each other for years. We've worked together, and I've even met you. We were in London, right? It was
yep.
we met you, and I met you in London, and we had a great conversation. And I just know that that's kind of your thing. Have you designed or mapped out at least a plan to kind of get a little closer to that someday? And what is it?
I do have a plan because one of my targets that I've got to do for next year, I have to have a specific animation stroke video game reel
Yes,
specific for that.
right.
Yes, we always need a commercial one, and that will take care of most things, your commercial one. But I want to get a specific one for video games, where I'm actually doing characters. And if I can get one for animation, once again, trying to push the character side of it, that's what I want to. That's what I'd like to get into.
Sure.
Um, and beyond voiceover, I would. I am interested in becoming a director eventually,
Okay.
a coach and a director. That side of it, um, when I've done exercises, when you work in group work and you do a bit of directing and a bit of coaching, probably the teacher in me comes out straight
Yes.
away.
Yeah.
Um, so that side of it is something that I would like to eventually do one day.
When it's funny, I'm smiling because when you say things like that out loud, the universe hears it. you know, you never know who's listening and watching, and hey, who is this guy?
Oh, that's
And
a
it's the truth.
Pixel. Pixel, give me a call.
Right. Well, hey, you got to float. You got to float these ideas, right? And I think that's great, man. And I think you also. I want to throw a little bit of just a little bit of. I can't think of the word. Why am I just blanking on the word? It's like something that I want you to remember. Just this thought and this idea because it's valuable. When you can specifically explain and illustrate what your final goal is. If it's just kind of blurry and it's off in the distance somewhere, yeah, one day I want to do something like that. I feel like if you could know exactly what that goal looks like, detailed, your brain starts making these stepping stones to, okay, well, if that's what the goal is, and I see it in detail, I'm going to have to do this first. And you don't know if you're going towards the goal or a little off of, you're not, you don't know if you're going towards it or you're not going towards it unless you detail what that is. And I
Yeah.
think, when we talk about what we want to do out loud and we detail it and explain it to other people, I think it's really, really, it's smart because what happens is your brain starts making those connections and you go, okay, well, if I work on this today, that's not taking me towards the goal. You start seeing those connections. I love just kind of highlighting those things. So there's some of the things I've learned. It sounds like that's kind of what you're doing, and just to share that stuff, I think is what this is all about, and this is what I want to do is kind of share these things. Would you describe for everyone watching our relationship and how you came across me and what we've done and maybe how I've helped you if I have?
Certainly. Um, it was during that time where I was just consuming all things voiceover, and I was learning how to use Logic. And I can't remember how I came across your channel, but I came across your channel. I think I was probably looking for Logic Pro. I probably put Logic Pro into it,
Yeah.
and you've probably had one of those. One of your episodes was probably covering that. Um, and I had a look at what you was doing, and I'm always me being a little bit of an audiophile. I was always constantly trying to improve the way I sound, the quality of my sound. and I can't remember what you actually broke down, but I like the way that you broke down whatever it was you was teaching at the time. The only thing that comes into my head at the moment is the one that you done for the Avalon.
Okay.
The
Yep.
Avalon. I remember what it was. I came across you because I was trying to understand what compression was,
Ah,
how to use a compressor. That's what it was. And I saw that you had someone's audio and you broke down exactly the process that you go through
right.
um, when you sweeten somebody's voice. Now, I'd done it on my own, trying to, once again, from what I'd learned from books and YouTube, I'd done it on my own and then
Sure.
saw what you'd done and saw, okay, there's one or two things that I am doing okay, and there's one or two things that I had no idea about.
Right.
And you also said that I could send audio into you and you would process it and send it back to me. So I thought, in for a penny, in for a pound, let's give it a go. So,
Let me
so I,
let me let me put some. This is great, man. Thank you for. I'm so glad you reached out to me. It's cool when I get to meet different people like yourself. According to my notes, you were using in the beginning a Rode NT1. And
yep,
I know you've upgraded to the MKH416. Is that what you're still using these days?
I've still got the NT1. I've got the 416, and I also bought a Austrian Audio as
Gotcha.
well.
That's right. I remember. Still using Logic Pro, which is your DAW, the Apple Logic Pro, and an
Yep.
Audient ID4 is what I've got listed for you. Are you still using that?
Upgraded to a 14 now.
Okay, but it's sticking with Audient.
Sticking with Audient, I love
Yep.
it. It just works for me. I
Okay,
think
so
the most important thing is just to find something that you can use.
yes, they're so
It's
good. All of the interfaces are so good compared to what 10 years ago. That it's a great. It's great what the level of quality availability is even for pretty cheap, respective to what it used to be. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I'm glad you sent me audio, and so I must have done some processing. And this was years ago. Sent it back to you, and how did that go? What was our exchange like?
What I found with the audio that you sent back to me, it was different to what I had, but I wasn't a million miles away from what you sent back to me. Your one was a lot clearer, a lot cleaner than what I had.
Okay,
Um, so that gave me encouragement to know that I'm not too far away. I can
right.
keep going with this. So I continued watching your channel and continually kept amending my own process and getting to a point where I felt that, okay, this does sound a lot better than just the raw audio. Um, and it sounds like I know what I'm doing. Um, and it goes to show it does work, because when I listen to where I am now with my audio and go back to some of my really early tries, there's a world of difference. So thank you for that. It has helped untold. That's what I found with it.
Here's a little gem of information you could stick with. That should stick with anybody. If it sounds like you know what you're doing, you know what you're doing. the, the sound is all that matters, but that's awesome. So I want to just say here, this is a shameless plug, but I want to explain this to people who haven't done it already. I've got a couple comments that came in. Ace Jackson, he's been here, I think the whole time. He said he's one of Lenny's. He says I'm a client of Lenny, and I have used his preset, and it's helped him. If you feel like I just would love to hear what it sounds like with an engineer processing my voice, you can send me for free your audio. I have a list of requirements. It's not that difficult. You go to my website, it's lennyb.com, and I'll put the link in the description of this video once it's posted and not live anymore. But you go to my website, you could send me a raw file, and I will send back to you the process, my interpretation of what I think would be a good process sound, if your raw file is up to par. if it's not up to par, often I'll say, we need to fix this in your room, or tell me how your mic is set up, and I can help you. And this is all free, by the way. And then if you, we can get your audio to sound better and you like the sound of the processing, it's available to purchase and we can talk about that. But just to hear what it sounds like or to get some of my suggestions, it's absolutely free. I want to do that. I do that for a lot of people. I've done that, Lenny, for you. And so just go to my website, all the details. And I encourage people at any level. You don't have to be a professional, top level voiceover artist to do this. You could be just starting. And it's really not even just for voiceover. I mean, I've got podcasters. I got anybody that records onto a mic. The better you can get your sound, the stronger the connection you can make to the people listening. So let me ask you this, Lenny, would you say that I hear this a lot of times, that it gives people confidence because they're like, oh, now I've learned from me how to make it better, or I've purchased one of the presets and I know that it sounds better now. What did that do for your brain and confidence, and then what did it do anything for the final outcome of raising or leveling up your business?
I'll tell you what it helps with. It improves your listening as well. When you listen to adverts, when you hear some of the more modest budget adverts,
okay,
and you can hear when there's good audio applied to it and when there's ordinary, let's say it that way, ordinary audio applied to it.
This is critiquing other people, is that right? You mean like hearing stuff?
Yeah. It's just, you just can't hear it. Once you've got an understanding of it, you just can't not to hear it. You just do it automatically.
Right.
And this isn't me having a go at anybody that hasn't learned how to process their audio. This is just an open critique that you constantly do. I was just going to say something, and it just went straight out of my head.
You're able to, you could critique, and you can hear things differently. It's a door that you can't go back from, like once you start hearing things. But did you notice any difference? And I'm asking because, one, I'm curious. I know it does a lot for your confidence. But after you leveled up, after we did our work together, after you've got the preset from me, what was the result? I'm curious, and if there wasn't any, I want you to be completely honest.
I'll tell you what I can do now. I can now, in my own business, I can offer raw audio. Like if I'm sending it to a professional studio, 9 times out of 10, they just want raw audio.
Right.
So I can send them raw audio. That's not a problem. For a client that's coming directly to me, I can offer you raw audio. And also on my own price list, if you want me to process it as well, then that's an option that you can select as well, and I can process it for you. So it makes it almost production ready. You just take it out and just put it straight onto your videos, straight onto your audio that you want to use. So it's an option for people to use, and it is one of those things where I would need to show you a before and after kind of thing. It's almost like those pictures of people that been to the gym for the first time in their life, and this is what I was like last year, and this is what I'm like now. Right. It's that sort of thing. You can only see it when you see it.
Here are my pants from last year.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's something that I can offer to people, and it is satisfying when I get a sample back of work that I've done, and if either I've done the processing or the client has done the processing, it just sounds so much more present.
Yes.
It does sound more present. That's the analogy I was thinking of. If you think of it this way, years ago, when, of course, I never got bootleg DVDs and videos, but people that used to get those sort of things
back in the day.
Right. You could watch a movie that had, I think podcasting said it as well. You could watch a movie that had substandard picture, but good audio.
Right.
But you can't watch a movie that's got a great picture and you can't hear what's going on. The audio is so important. So the better you can make your audio, that's one box to tick. But that's only one facet of producing good voiceover work. One thing I sort of touched on it, but something that's extremely important for voiceover is to make sure you find a coach that works with you and can improve what you're doing. Um, and is current as well, that knows what the voiceover trends are for today. That
That's
is
Yeah, that I think that's a great. I was going to ask you about some advice, and I think that's good. So you encourage people to seek out a coach, and would you give? How did you find some of the coaches that you felt brought you up? What did you do for How did you do it? What did you just search online, friends, other colleagues? How did you find them?
friends, college, friends, colleagues, and online. One of my coaches I found on YouTube, Lenny B. I started training with her, and I found her through going through YouTube. Another coach, Diane Perry, I found that was through word of mouth through a friend. Um, like I said, when I was with Voiceover Kickstart, I used to train with Guy Michaels. So training makes such a difference to what you're actually doing,
Yeah.
and gets you to the point where somebody can give you a script and you can now understand how to break the script down and recognize what somebody's asked, what's hidden within the script, what's the unwritten lines within the script that you have to bring out, what's the mood of it, um, what type of sell, if you're doing a commercial script, for instance, what type of sell is it? Is it a hard sell? Is it a soft sell?
Mm-hmm.
Is it, should it be a conversational? Should it be cheerful? Is it serious? Those kind of things were highlighted to me from my coaches, um, and giving me tools to use, because when I first started, I was constantly making mistakes all the time. So my coaches worked with me and showed me it's not a problem. We all make mistakes. Don't
Right.
beat yourself over the head with it. Calm down. You do this, 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 and this. I'm not going to sell what they're doing, but you do this, that,
Right.
that, and
Right.
this.
Right.
And after a while, you start to understand it and go, okay, it's not a problem. I just have to do this, that, that, and this, and I'm fine. I'm
So,
fine.
so you feel like you know growing is necessary, and to do that you've found coaching and getting different coaches. Sounds like you've had a few. So you go through coaching sessions with different people, and you keep finding new people. It sounds like you'll always be doing that, you think?
I think even the best voiceovers have coaching. Yeah, I think it's essential. I don't think that there's any voice artist of any that has got to where they are without.
Yeah.
It's
I
absolutely essential to what you do.
That's great. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways. And it's awesome because one of the things I want to accomplish with this interview with you and this live is, just get some really good advice. And I think that sounds like something that's really helped you. Would you say that's the biggest thing that has allowed you to, become full-time voiceover and to use, put the business and create you as a product? I guess, your voiceover is your brand of product, and making that to the level where you can, it's your career, it's your full-time career. You think that's probably the coaching has been the biggest thing for you?
Yeah, the coaching from the performance side of it has been the biggest thing for me.
Interesting.
As well as that, like I said, the business side of it is a huge part to learn as well. Um, and there are podcasts like Mark Scott. I'd done a course with Jonathan Tilley on marketing. I've done your course on marketing as well. So different people have different views on what to do with their marketing, and of course, talking to people in my accountability groups. Some of them are excellent at marketing. Just networking with people, you just learn so much. And
Yeah,
don't limit yourself to just talking to voiceovers. Talk to people that run businesses,
I love
because
it.
it is a business.
It's true.
It is a business.
You know
So
what what's happened is, I mean, I've come to this realization. I say this all the time. I came up in radio and I learned the business of radio in addition to creating content and producing and the audio side of it, but storytelling and being on the air and working with morning shows and producing morning shows and doing it all. And I've realized that I kind of have my own radio station, which is my YouTube channel. It's like my own platform where I speak to my, listeners, just like radio. And once you realize that, it's like, wow, you can really run, which is such a great, beautiful silver lining of the internet these days, is you could, from a business standpoint, you can create your own platform and broadcast and teach and share your gift and promote your products that helps other people, and it's a synergy thing. I know you and I have had a lot of conversations about marketing, and I thank you for talking about my marketing course, and it's something I'm very proud of, and I hope that's helped you a little bit. Before we wrap up here, I want to let's maybe just go in that direction a little bit. I think one of your marketing tentacles, or one of your marketing streams or efforts, I would say, is your podcast, which is something you've just launched recently. Tell us about how we can find your podcast, what it is, and what you can get if you listen to some of these episodes that you're doing, and how is it part of your marketing?
My podcast is the Vocal Velvet podcast. That's my website address as well. And I started it. I done your course on marketing, and I looked at one or two other people that had done marketing, and essentially, if you can frame your podcast correctly, then it will do your selling for you. It's that thing that what's that businessman in America? Is it Warren Buffett? Is his name?
Okay.
Who said something along the lines of to be successful in business, or to make money, basically, you need to be earning money while you're sleeping. Right. And it's the same sort of thing with marketing. Your marketing needs to be working while you're sleeping. While you're not there, it's still doing your marketing. Now, if you can set up your podcast, hopefully I have, but if you can set up your podcast correctly, as you have, it's constantly working for you. People are constantly looking at it, and somebody will contact you, or you might spark an interest from somebody just from hearing what you're saying, what you're talking. If you grab somebody who's not even interested in voiceover, they might call somebody else in and say, hey, I've been listening to this, Lenny B. You're interested in this sort of thing. Have a listen to this. And then business can come your way via that. The traditional ways of doing marketing as well help in terms of emailing. You can send out emails. That's one I'd done initially. Whether that works for you or not, you have to make your decision. Same thing with the podcast. If that works for you or not, you have to make your decision. You can do things like cold calling, which I did do as well. I know a lot of people hate doing it, and I hate receiving cold callers, but I've found that I've been fairly successful with my cold calling, purely because after doing it twice, I threw away the script and decided I was just going to talk to people.
I can understand that. Yeah, and it's, every little piece, every effort, whether it's lifting up the phone and connecting with somebody, or making a video, or another podcast episode, or doing a YouTube live, these are all telling your story. And what's really cool about it, and I think people miss, and as soon as you kind of understand how search and SEO is such a huge part of the world now, as long as you label yourself correctly and describe who you are and tell your story, the only people you really have to worry about reaching out to you are the ones that are interested in what you have to talk about. And those are the only people that you're producing these messages for, right? So, I mean, for example, if you make a cold call and you say, hey, I'm a voiceover artist and I wanted to find out if you need something like that. If they're not interested, they're going to say no. But the people that you'll continue with and maybe get a call back from are the ones that are interested. So Yeah, you just kind of have to be good with rejection if it's those one-on-one calls like you do on the phone. But the cool thing about the internet these days is whether it's a bio or a demo or a YouTube video or a podcast or an Instagram post or a TikTok, those are available and searchable while you're sleeping. It's
Yep.
huge. Once you understand that, and then you have to get over yourself. And I say that because every time I turn on this camera right here, I go, oh man, I got to look at myself and my bald head. I don't want to do it, but you force yourself to put yourself, you got to put yourself out there and tell your story and be authentic. And I think, we've had conversations about this, and I love the fact that you're doing the podcast. I'm going to put a link to it. I want you to go check out Lenny's podcast. It's cool. And you, my friend, have a pretty good network of people in the music business, which is really cool, and sharing some of their stories, which is awesome. So that's kind of one of your specialties. I want to just shout out a couple people. Tony Scott says, I'm also a client of Lenny B. He separates me from everyone else. I highly recommend. Thank you so much. And this is a question, and thank you for asking the questions here, by the way. This is from Consorcio Nomada. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Forgive me if I'm not. Linton, have you found that AI voiceover plan? We're opening up a whole box. I don't want you to get too deep into this, but this is a good question, and I want your take on it. Have you found that AI voiceover platforms are removing jobs from the workplace? And if so, how can voiceover artists just starting break through that artificial noise? What are your thoughts? If you could keep it down to the next hour, what are your thoughts on that?
All right, I'll keep it down. I'll keep it down to a couple of thoughts without swearing.
I have something to say on it too when you're done. Yeah, go ahead.
I was talking with Toby Ricketts about this not too long ago as well, and we sort of agreed on this. I find that AI is taking the low fruit in voiceover. The low budget work, the sort of stuff that you would learn your voiceover on, the sort of stuff that you'd make your bones on, I suppose a mafioso would call it.
I like that. I'm gonna take that. I like that.
But my thoughts on AI is the sort of clients that would want to use an AI voice. I wouldn't really want to be working with that client anyway, because think of it, when you see a video or a post that's got an AI voice,
yeah, immediately shut it off. I mean, I can't connect as well.
And that's what it is. And it's not the voiceover background that we've got. You just can't make that connection with it. Now, AI will get better, but it's not there yet. And at the moment, I wouldn't want to be doing that kind of work.
Gotcha.
And someone made the analogy that I'm gonna nick another one again. Toby made an analogy that, or I'll sort of turn it around this way. AI and a voiceover, they both essentially do the same sort of thing. And I can equate it to a Ferrari and, I don't know, a Honda. Let's call it a Ferrari and a Honda. They both do the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that last 20% that makes a Ferrari, that's what you pay the extra money for. And the Honda cannot do that.
Right.
It cannot do that. And that's what we are. That's the way you need to think about yourself. For us to survive against AI, one of my coaches said this as well, you need to start thinking of yourself as a voice actor rather than a voiceover.
Yeah, that actually is a good transition to the way I and what I say about it, because I get this question a lot of times, and I've heard people that are they get deflated and they get so it's all like you're saying, you got to be good with rejection, and then you feel like, oh, this is just another punch to my effort here with this AI coming up. And I'll say two things, and I want to answer this question and address one of the things he said. So there's really 2 points I want to make. He's asking, especially for people just starting. So what you said was, I don't know if I want to work with clients on those low-paying jobs. But with people who are just starting, it's those low-paying jobs where people are kind of cutting their teeth. So it's like, I'm just starting. I don't have a coach. I'm not doing this full time yet, and now it's going to be even harder to get into it. And here's what I have to say. So there's 2 points I want to make about this. I would say that there are more voiceover. He just said correct. He left a comment. So good. That's good. There are more voiceover jobs or people looking for voices than ever before. Okay. So it's growing. The amount of content, but you have to open your mind. It's not just commercials anymore. Actually, that I think is one of the staples. But anybody like our age, or I'll say my age, we grew up on radio and television and stuff, but the world is different now. There are different platforms. And when I say platforms, I'm talking about advertising platforms. There's pre-roll for YouTube. There's, the Spotifys and other music platforms. There's content. There's podcasts. There are more and more, and it's multiplying the places that people need media. So that is growing, and it's getting bigger. There's audiobooks, there's more movies, there's more movie studios, there's more television studios, there's more, or why don't I say streaming platforms. There's YouTube platforms that are making content that will never see a television, but people are only being on. It's expanding. So the need for a voiceover, and so that's one. The other part of this is, please, as a voiceover artist, be more than your voice. You are, and I'll give you an example. And we're all independent. We're all like fingerprints. We're all different. And the more you could be authentic and be yourself. And one of the very first things that you said when we started was, it used to be that stereotypical, it's the movie voiceover guy. Oh, you've got a voice. But there's people with lisps and tiny little voices. But there's people with strange accents. There's people with all different types and vibes. Lean into that, because that will make you original. And you have to share. You are not only your voice, you are your business acumen. You're how you get back to the client. You're how you over-deliver or undeliver your product. How you follow up and make sure everything's good. It's the relationships. And, that pushes us further away from AI. The more you can do those things, the more you can market yourself and tell your true story and be a brand and be a person, be more person than any AI could be. And that's limitless. And will eventually it get there? I hope it. Listen, I'll say this. I hope the robots get there so they can take care of me when I'm 80 years old. But I will. That's down the road. So it's a valid point.
I think. Let me just. You really have to underline the relationship side of it. The relationship is absolutely everything. That's something that AI simply cannot do.
Right.
And when you've got that good working professional relationship with someone, both of you are more inclined to go that extra mile for the other person.
Yeah. Until AI starts hiring you, it's a person that's hiring you, right?
That's it. Because you hire a person. You don't hire the voice. You hire a person. You could have the greatest skills as a voiceover ever, but if you're a terrible person that never picks up the phone, never answers a message, no one's going to want to work with you. It's all about your relationship as well. And what you said about being authentic as well, that is everything. You have to be authentic. You cannot go out there. I went through a spate, I think in my second year of voiceover, when I was learning about being conversational, when I was listening to people that I thought was conversational. And I started doing auditions in what I thought people would want me to sound like. I got 0 jobs doing that.
Wow.
I got 0 jobs doing that. As soon as I went back to just being Lenny, I started picking up work again. And I'm not talking about earning bundles and bundles of money, but I started to win auditions as soon as I become authentic Lenny. And all that I would give to clients is different shades of Lenny.
Right.
But it's Lenny. That's what it is. And if you're not the voice, You're not the voice. It's not a problem.
Yep.
Move on. But
Y-
you have to be yourself.
You have to. You are going to be the best version of yourself, and you'll be better than something else. And is that the solution? Is that going to work for everybody? Maybe not. But I would say I would say leaning on your relationship and being more than just a voice, and the business relationship and relationships and networking and putting yourself out there, telling your story. That's how we're going to combat this, and that's how I think that is how people are going to remain successful for the time being. And to combat that, you have to not be more not AI, if that makes sense. George always joins these. George Pinto. He says, Lenny and guest, I'll be able to the human essence of being unique. You're right. You're absolutely right. AI will not be able to imitate the human essence. Thank you for asking all these questions, and everybody who's joined us live. Tony and Consorcio, I believe is how you, and Ace Jackson, and anybody else watching. If you have more questions, and we're about to close up, and I've got one more question I want to ask you, Lenny. I'm Lenny. He's Lenny.
It's a Lenny and Lenny show.
That's right. That's right. If you've got questions, I will continue to answer if you leave comments in this section, because I want this video to remain up. And I appreciate everybody checking this out. I'm going to do more of these things. I want to share the expertise and experience from professional voiceover artists. Two things I want to can you briefly give us just another piece of advice for maybe somebody that is maybe not just starting out, maybe they're doing this part-time. It's like, I'm getting some work and I would love to kind of to level up. What would be just a piece of advice as now you're doing it full time, your equipment updates, your understanding, the coaching, all the stuff? What would be something to tell somebody, a youngster, a career youngster, someone further or earlier in the path than you? What would you tell
Earlier
them
in
to
the path
help
me,
their career?
I would say seek out one of those networks. Whether it be Gravy for the Brain, whether it be Voiceover Network, whether it be Voiceover Kickstart, similar types of things. Seek out one of those networks that essentially they are training platforms, and find the one that works for you. Find the one that works for you. What I've found, bit of a plug for Gravy for the Brain. One of the things that I love about Gravy for the Brain, they have a voiceover rates guide. So it gives you an idea of what you should be charging. Industry standard. I think there's another one called is it GAA that you've got in America? I think it's the GAA rate guide as well. That's another one as well. So you've got, once again, it's another layer of professionalism to what you actually do.
Sure.
So that would be my advice to those. Go to try to get to situations where you can network with other people and talk to other voiceover artists.
Sure.
And talk to people that you would like to work with. For instance, later on next year, I'm going to be going. I should have gone this year. I didn't, but I want to go to one or two of the documentary conferences because I want to do more documentaries.
Yes.
Where else should I go?
Yeah,
if you want to buy a dog, you go to a dog shop. You go to a pet shop, don't you?
It's true. It's true. Put yourself out there. Would you do us a favor? I mean, when you get some time, would you maybe send me 3-4 links of some of those coaches or platforms that you have found valuable, and we could share them with people watching? Would you mind sending me those links when you get a chance, and I'll put them in the description?
I will do.
It's a way to help kind of plug those for, if you've found value. And also tell us how to tell me your website, and I'll put this also too, and I want you to send that to me. Your website, your podcast, which I'm a guest on coming up. I'm one of the guests on your podcast, which is awesome. Thank you for doing that. How do people find more of you? How do people find you?
My website is vocalvelvet.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Linton Tulloch, on LinkedIn, Instagram @vocalvelvet. Those are the 3 main ways to find me. My podcast, the Vocal Velvet podcast, is available on Spotify and it's on YouTube as well. So that's two ways that you can find me there.
Awesome. Man, thank you so much for taking the time and being open and to share your experience and your just some of the things that you found valuable. I think it's really, I think people that are coming up are like, this is food, right? It's more research for them and everything. So thank you so much for doing that. I would be remiss if I didn't plug. I've got training courses for the audio engineering side to help you make your voice sound better, help treat your room, acoustic treatment, and learn to EQ and learn the workflow from the audio engineering standpoint. I have a marketing course, and I'll remind you again, if you feel like you want to level up and you don't like doing the engineering, if you don't have the ear for it, but you know you have to make your voice sound better, it's absolutely free. You could send me a raw file according to my instructions. You should go to my website and it shows you how to do it. You send me a raw file and I will send back to you an example of me processing your voice and what that could sound like. It's absolutely free at lennyb.com. Lenny, thank you so much for doing this, man. I appreciate it. And I'm glad that we're buddies, Go
Could
ahead.
I add one thing that we haven't covered?
Sure.
Which concerning leveling up, a big part of it, your acoustic treatment makes a huge difference to what you do.
Yes.
Better than, I'll tell you what had happened when I bought I was still using my NT1. I had the panels up around the wall that you see now.
Yes.
No problem at all. And I just bought an Austrian Audio thinking, right, my sound is going to sound so much better with this more expensive microphone.
Right.
I spoke to someone who convinced me to put a cloud up above my head. So I've got panels above my head. As soon as I put that cloud up, the difference between the Austrian Audio and the NT1 was so close. So you don't need to buy the most expensive microphone.
Right.
Spend the money on your acoustic treatment. That's
so
going to...
true. It's so true. You know what happens is some people level up, they buy a better mic, and it makes it worse because sometimes the better mic has less noise and it's more sensitive to the noise or to the reflections that are happening in the room. It's such a huge thing, and I'd say it's the number one piece of equipment. And it's, people buy a mic right away, and they think the mic's going to get them the sound. But when it comes to voiceover, and this is, I don't want to sound condescending and be like, oh, everybody knows that acoustic treatment, because there's new people all the time learning. I've got an acoustic treatment training course that I think is really valuable. But yes, that is absolutely, and it's great for you to say that. So that helped you level up, I think. That was one of the big things as far as updating your studio, right?
Oh yeah, because straight away I can now say my studio will sound as good as most other studios now, just by making sure I've got carpet on the floor, panels on the wall, above the head. You hear it the moment that I walk into this room, suddenly the noise floor drops straight away. So yeah, invest in your acoustic treatment. It's the best investment.
You and I will have another pint in London at one point. I know it. It was great.
We will do.
It's always great to see you, Lenny, and thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. You could stay on. I still want to talk to you after we stop the live, but thank you so much for doing this, and we'll chat soon. And thanks for everybody watching and playing along here and asking questions. I really appreciate you. I'm Lenny B. My website's lennyb.com, and Lenny Tulloch, a professional voiceover artist. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. See everybody soon.